Oh hi, welcome to our presentation of subliminal advertising and issues surrounding it. The definition of subliminal is below the threshold of conscious perception. All of us in our daily lives are subject to many forms of subliminal advertising. There's an ongoing debate as to whether or not this type of advertising should be allowed if it's potentially influencing every decision we make. The US, Canada, Russia, England and Australia are just some of the countries it's currently illegal to create such content, and if found, the FCC will revoke a company's broadcasting licence if there's enough evidence to support the case. In 1957, marketing researcher and psychologist James Vickery conducted one of the very first subliminal messaging experiments through the medium of film. During a viewing of the film Picnic, he flashed the words, "Hungry, eat popcorn, drink Coca-Cola" onto the screen at a rate of 0.003 seconds, almost unrecognisable to the human eye. Once complete, Vickery claimed that the sales of popcorn increased by 57.8% and Coke by 18.1%. In subliminal advertising, sex is often used to try and sell and promote a product. The use of sexual appeals has been used throughout advertising for many years. During the 1990s, Sega were at the top of their game and started to produce advertisements for Viz, a student comic book magazine that featured the following images. Why do you think Burger King has created this advertising campaign? They're a big company already.
Firstly, usually you do see these types of ads for smaller brands who are trying to make themselves noticed by the public. However, portraying sex in ads is a very effective way to gain consumer attention. Advertisements on average are recalled at a 20% higher rate if they contain some sort of sexual subliminal images or messages.
Could you possibly describe a bit more about the advertisement itself?
Of course, the way everything is positioned in this ad, you can see that it's aimed to put a specific sexual idea in the man's mind. It appears that the woman's face in this advertisement has been retouched to make her look more like a doll with her red lips and her blonde hair. Women are often used as a sex object to attract men's attention, therefore it could be stated that the target audience for this ad is mainly directed to men. It is almost as though it is hinting towards a subliminal message that the only thing men truly desire in this world are women, sex and food.
Was this advertisement successful in the market then?
This advertisement was only a promotion for a limited amount of time in the Singapore market, and it's not running in the United States or any other markets. I mean, if you think about it, Burger King targets young children as well, and they should not be exposed to these levels of sexual advertising. According to many experts in Singapore, however, they informed us that the ad generated positive consumer sales around the limited amount of time that the product was in the market.
Do you think that subliminal advertising only mainly focuses on sex?
It does probably mainly focus on sex. However, for the Intel advertisement, it is subliminally suggesting that the white male is of a higher status than the black male who are on the ground below him.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
How do you feel about your children watching supposedly harmless adverts?
Well, I'm absolutely shocked at some of the adverts on during the daytime. So many are sexually orientated, and I just don't feel that it's appropriate for my children. They're all under the age of 10 to be watching such adverts. I mean, most of them hint towards sex, and they use sex as a tool for selling their products. It's just not appropriate.
Obviously there are rules and regulations put in place to stop such vulgar adverts being shown during the daytime. Do you think your children are actually being affected by advertising shown on TV?
They are. Have you never seen the adverts for alcoholic drinks? Condoms, hardly subliminal, the message is very clear. Also, even adverts for cars and computers contain sexual images and inappropriate scenes. Such as this one for Renault cars.
I like to associate it to the wow factor, you know, when you see something like wow.
About subliminal messages appearing in films, especially Disney films, how do you deal with this?
Well, yes, I'm aware of the sexual messages in many of the Disney films, like in The Lion King. There's sex written in the sky at one point, and The Little Mermaid, there's actually a penis on the front cover. But I don't think my children would catch on to this, and I think it's just a ploy by Disney to like promote publicity. As they say, all publicity is good publicity.
Subliminal advertising in the music industry has fast become a huge ethical issue in which we've had to monitor. One particular example that I want to use is Romeo Thicke's song, Blurred Lines. This song has attracted media attention since the day of its release due to its sexual content and inappropriate messaging.
What has been the response to this?
Rape Crisis, a charity that raises awareness of sexual violence, has been campaigning for the song to be banned as it seems to glamorise violence against women and to reinforce rape myths. Universities such as Edinburgh and Exeter have also responded to the outcry amongst the population and have banned the song from being played around campus. Beats by Dr. Dre used this provocative song in their advertising campaign and altered the video so that half-naked models were now playing with the phallus-shaped speakers.
Everybody get up.
Wow, I don't know how I feel about that. How did the public respond?
There was an influx of complaints after this advert was publicised from angry and concerned parents, and this resulted in the advert being pushed back to a later time slot so that it would not be seen by children. Beats defended this advert, claiming that any mild and light-hearted innuendo around the phallus-shaped speaker would not have been picked up by children. The company said that it did not consider the ad showed any sustained or overtly sexual messages or provocative behaviour due to the shots of nudity being so brief. Though the company argued against the inappropriate content of the advert, stating that it was only supposed to be fun and playful, but from an academic point of view, the imagery and the lyrics represented conventions that may unconsciously influence consumer perception. Due to the culture we now live in which exposes us to high volumes of sexual advertising, children and young adults are fast becoming vulnerable to thinking that this is normal and an acceptable way to behave.
No, darling, I can't talk now. No, right, yes, okay.
So Jessica Andrews, we've managed to catch you on a cigarette break. You're a world-famous director. Can you comment on how others have made use of subliminal advertising in films?
Well, darling, you can see it everywhere if you look hard enough. It being illegal and immoral has never stopped anyone. Take Silence of the Lambs, for example. The poster and box cover is a subliminal message in itself. The moth featured in the poster is an intrinsic part of the film's plot, and the skull links it to death. This, however, is not the end of the message. A closer look at the skull reveals that it is in fact made up of naked women.
That's astonishing. Why do you think the film was marketed in this way?
Well, sex sells, darling. If you can link the film with sex, then people are subconsciously going to relate it with sex, and people will want to watch it on an unconscious level. It's appearing to our inner sex-obsessed caveman. We're nothing but animals, sweetie.
I feel violated.
Well, of course, directors and marketers would never admit to doing this. It's illegal for a reason. It's appealing to a part of our minds that we can't control, and so therefore we're sort of unable to resist this kind of advertising, hence it being illegal and immoral.
Is this the only type of subliminal advertising that goes on in film?
Well, don't be absurd, darling. Take Pixar, for example. They make use of subliminal advertising to market films that have not even yet been released. It can perhaps be seen most clearly in Finding Nemo. On 2 occasions in this film, Mr. Incredible can clearly be seen. Finding Nemo was released in 2003, and that The Incredibles was not released until 2004. Pixar does this in order to get the consumer to relate to the characters on an unconscious level, so that when the film is released, they feel they can relate to them, but they don't quite know why.
Thank you, Miss Andrews, for your comments.
Thank you, darling.
So Alex, what research you've been undertaking recently about subliminal advertising and the effects it can have on us?
Hi Jack, at the University of Exeter we've recently been looking into Sigmund Freud's theory of the unconscious mind and its relevance to subliminal advertising. Whilst Freud's ideas were dismissed as folklore in the 20th century, recently psychologists have brought Freud's theory to the forefront again, due to thorough experiments on the effects of the subconscious mind, giving evidence as to what really goes on inside our heads.
Interesting stuff. So what exactly is the unconscious mind?
As Freud discussed, our unconscious mind plays a much larger role in the decisions we make than we may have previously suspected. Freud stated that the conscious part of our minds, known as the ego, is driven by our unconscious desires known as the id. Freud identified that the ego is not master in its own house, outlining how the unconscious controls our wants and desires, and without the id, the ego would be nothing.
So why do we need the unconscious mind, and what role does it play?
Well, recent evidence has reinforced Freud's theory that conscious reasoning makes up a small part of the activity in our brains. Most of the work takes place where we can't tap into it. The modern unconscious is a place of data processing, survival mechanisms, and rules of thumb about the world, sharpened by millions of years of evolution. It is the unconscious that stitches together data on colour, shape, movement, and perspective to create the sight enjoyed by the conscious part of the mind.
Lastly, how is this relevant to subliminal advertising, and what are the issues surrounding it?
Well, Jack, as we can see, our subconscious may have a larger role in making our decisions than we previously thought. Often, market researchers have dismissed the effectiveness of subliminal advertising in selling their products. But as recent research has found, our conscious purchasing decisions may in fact fall prey to advertising that plays to our subconscious mind, and thus the actions we make.
Thank you.